Welcome back to another episode of Boomer Bust on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are talking about the pass catchers, the receivers and the tight ends, 22 NFL draft. Not that many tight ends, so we combined them. So I've been saying this for years, for many years, maybe not many, but like 5 years or so, that receivers have become dime a dozen. Much like running backs have been. And I had that discussion on the running back episode. But I wouldn't say it's to the same extent of a running back. The reason it's not is because a running back is more dependent on the offensive line than a receiver is on the quarterback. Obviously, the receiver needs the quarterback. That's not a question. But a great receiver could elevate a okay quarterback, I should say. A bad quarterback, it's not much you could do with it. But an okay quarterback, I think, can be elevated by good receivers. We've seen DeAndre Hopkins and Andre Johnson, ironically, two Houston Texans receivers, to me, have been the best that I've seen in my time, that really just like, it doesn't matter who's throwing, we're going to get it done. And so receivers can do that. But at the same time, dime a dozen for me is you don't have this idea that you used to, that a receiver has to fit this type of prototype build. And if they don't fit that type of prototype build, there's no way they can be a number one. There's no way that they might not even be able to play in this type of system. And for a long time, as we know, smaller receivers, they didn't even get much consideration. And so we evolved to a point where the slot and the spread offense, so the slot receiver, became more prominent, and we got to a point where it was like, oh, there's a place for these smaller receivers. But then we went past that and got to a place now where it's like a receiver can be wherever. It doesn't matter, not only because of how we try to utilize their talent, but also just the formations and the way we create schemes is different now, where we're going to ask them to do different things, whereas before it was very much a box of what you would ask certain receivers to do. You're X, you're Y, you're Z, or not a Y, but you're X, you're Z, you're a slot guy. We might do this and that with you, but that's it. Now, I would say the imagination is definitely opened up, and not really like the NFL did it. The NFL, as I say, and I will continue to say, if you listen to me, the NFL copies college. College copies high school. High school, outside of the powerful factories, they have to adapt because they don't have the same talent that everybody else does, or the same time. So we have to be creative on the high school level. That's where innovation comes from, and it pushes up to the NFL eventually. So we're at a place where you could use whatever the receiver is. And I think Debo Samuel is a great example of this. I look at Debo, and although he definitely has improved, he's not much different than the prospect I saw when he was coming out of South Carolina. The only difference is that the 49ers have embraced what he does best and have allowed him to be utilized in that way. I mean, yes, there's some straight up running back stuff, but even a lot of the stuff he did on the perimeter prior to this year was about getting him the ball so he could run after the catch. Because straight up one-on-one, lockdown corner, route runner, that's not him. But crossing the field, play actions, quick things, stuff out of the backfield, he can do all of that, and he's a better player when he's doing that. And so you come to a point where whatever your skill set is as a receiver, we can utilize it if it works for our system. And if for whatever reason you're a real star and we need to change the system, we can do that to get you involved. And so that makes it more viable for receivers throughout the draft than what it used to be. Now, I mean, we're sitting in a place where pretty much the top guys are top guys in the draft. But you still got to look at around the league and see how many productive people we've had, some even great, where they were not top guys in the draft. And you can, to me, find those players more readily than you could. I mean, again, it's like the running back with the dime a dozen. I could get a 6th-round receiver, and he could be useful. I could get 500 to 700 yards out of him. So, to me, that is the state of the receiver. As far as the draft, as far as college goes, these guys got better. I talked about it with the quarterbacks. The spread offense really wreaked havoc on all offensive positions. None more so than the quarterback. But receivers took a hit too, because you had a lot of guys coming out that they only did 2 routes, stick and vertical. And that's it. That's all they've ever done. And so they have no real concept of a route tree. And I've seen over the last few years that trend change as you are getting more air raid concepts into college. And there's still some teams that still are strictly spread with the simplistic stuff, but there's a lot of air raid concepts, West Coast, kind of vertical West Coast concepts. But there's also a lot of crossing. I don't even know what you would really call it, but there's a lot of this in-breaking stuff. As I talked about the quarterbacks, a lot of crossers, drags, digs, slants. And so, most of that is because of the RPO stuff as well. But either way, that's where we are now. And so receivers, not only are they doing a lot more in the spread game, like we said with a Tyreek Hill, a Debo Samuel, you see some of that stuff in the NCAA. Some of these guys are running a lot of stuff out of the backfield and special plays, but we also see them running more routes than I think what they used to. Still not a full route tree for everybody, but I think we're getting better receivers than we have in a little bit. So anyway, let's dive into these guys. The top handful of receivers and then a couple tight ends. And so receivers seems to be a deep class. Again, I'm looking at guys that pretty much are top 50, 75, depending on the position. And receivers had a good group of them. This is a really good group. I actually like this group. So we got Jameson Williams from Bama, who got hurt. So his draft status might not be what it was, but some people think he's the best receiver in the class. Despite the injury, I'm not one of those, but this guy's a speed receiver. Obviously, I don't think he'll be running, but you got to project him as like a mid to low 4.3 guy, thin guy. But to me, it's interesting that he didn't really play at Ohio State at that level, and so he transferred to Bama, where, I mean, it might have been the right place, right time, but he was the number 1 guy and really had a breakout year. So not a lot of history of production, but that might be okay for some people, Les Miles. But I think receiver is one of those things that I want to kind of see that you've had experience and you understand routes and all that. But, as I've said in every episode, the physical attributes is a big, big factor, and I'm recognizing that. So, speed for days. And I think what that does is a couple things. Number one, when you get the ball in your hands, you're going to be a threat. I seen him do some moves that I thought were pretty good, but overall, I don't think he has this natural backyard tendency like some receivers. I think he's just going to outrun guys. And then the other thing is you're going to get a lot of cushion. Now, in the league, they might press up on you, but most of the time you're going to go against corners that don't have the speed, and the defense is going to they're going to try to give you some type of cushion. And so when you have that cushion, you don't have to worry about being rerouted at the line as much. And I think, to me, it's easier to run better routes. Like, it's hard to run crisp routes against man. That's when you got to be precise. But I think it's a little easier when you have that cushion. And so what happened is, in the NCAA, he definitely was able to get separation. To me, I think it was average. I think with the speed, with the zone, with the off coverage, he's going to get open. That you could get open off that stuff. But when he runs routes, I don't see the hip movement. The best thing I've heard when it comes to receivers that I use every year, I think it was Jerry Rice, is it was either Jerry Rice or someone talking about Jerry Rice. And they said that with route running, what makes a dangerous route runner is someone that can sink and move their hips before the rest of their body moves. And I've always looked for that when I've evaluated receivers. And it's true. I mean, when you think about it, when you get on the field and you coaching, or when you just put yourself in their shoes, if you're trying to anticipate a guy's movement and you know that obviously you're not staring at his feet or anything, you can't do that because things happen too fast. You're usually looking at the head, you're looking at the chest, whatever. If your chest is still one way while your hips have sunk and are already into a break, by the time I realize your chest move, it's too late for me. And so you got some guys like Jameson, and I don't think he's horrible, but this is what I've seen, is that he doesn't break with his hips. He breaks with his whole body. And so to me, it's always going to be a little harder to get separation when you run routes like that. That's why they're really talking about digging into routes, really breaking down, being able to decelerate, get your hips down because that allows you to move and plant and break quicker. And again, this is a guy with supreme speed though, so it won't be the same issue that it is for some people. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, his athleticism is really great. And the thing is, I think he has great hips. Some guys just don't have good hips. They're not fluid. I think he has great hips. He just needs to work on the technique of route running because the rest of the ability is there. I like his ball skills. The radius looks great. He could go up and get the ball. He tracks it well as a deep threat. The hands, you know what? He body catches a lot. A lot of these guys did. I liked some plays where he went and got it, caught it away from his body, but he body catches a lot. But I think he has good hands, so I might as well just give the numbers. I gave a level 5 speed, 4.5 agility, 4 ball skills, 3.5 route running, and 4 hands. So that's what I gave him. With the injury, he might go later. A lot of people scared he might go to the Chiefs. I don't know if they'll re-up offense again, but he'd be a weapon if he did go there. All right, so we got Chris Olave. People be saying it different ways, and I was trying to say don't say it that way, and I end up anyway. So Chris Olave from Ohio State. Crazy the number of just draft picks Ohio State pushes out, but I really liked him. I think he's going to be better at the next level in the slot. And I think depending on where he goes, if he goes to a team without any big targets, then he might be able to get in the slot and get a lot of those easy crossers and stuff. But he can hold his own outside. This is a guy, and again, this is why I like people with experience. He has a better polished technique as far as getting off the line. He knows how to get off the line. He knows how to stutter, how to stem. He knows how to use his hands to fight. Not the biggest dude, so if you get a big, strong corner, I think you still could press on him, but he works getting off the line really well. And then I really liked his ability to separate. He understands the leverage of the route. He understands, again, how to break down and run the route. And for me, again, when you got, I don't know how fast he's going to be. To me, he looks like, and I rated him a 4.5. He looks really good, especially off the line. But I don't know that he's like a 4.3 type guy, but we'll see. But either way, he has enough speed to get cushion, as I talked about before. And against the cushion, he's great. I mean, you just got some guys that know how to react to the defender. Some don't. Some don't know really how to set up the defender when they're in press bail or when they're just in off coverage. I think Olave does a great job of really leveraging what the defense is in zone to get himself open or to at least set up the route to get where he's supposed to go. So, and he does this. I haven't seen really any receivers do this. He does like this kind of hop step. Like you see people with the ball do this. Like they call it, what is it, like high leg or something like that, and high step. And he kind of does that. He does like these hops. And at the top of the route, he does these hops and breaks off. And it's really effective. I'll be curious how that looks in the NFL. And then as far as his yak ability, I like his yak ability. I think he has good vision. And again, that's part of his route running too. When he gets the ball, he knows how to follow blocks. He knows how to weave in between traffic. I don't think he's breaking tackles or breaking too many people's ankles, but he reminded me a lot of Robert Woods. And I put that. He just really knows how to navigate the field in general. And I'll say this later. There are a lot of receivers that are kind of in the same mold as Chris Olave in this draft. But to me, I think he really was the embodiment of Robert Woods. And that's not to say he's the same type of route runner, because Robert Woods was an elite route runner, but I really like his overall package. So I gave him 4.5 speed. Again, great acceleration and burst, 4.5 agility, 3.5 ball skills, tracks the ball well as a deep threat. But I think just kind of limited size. I don't know how much his catch radius will be with crazy catches, but it might be. That's the other thing. Let me just say, that's the other thing about evaluating receivers. It is really hard to evaluate corners and receivers. Corners mostly because you can't always see what's going on. They don't get the ball thrown at them. But receivers, because they're so, like, we all know the scenarios. There's probably like 50 scenarios that we want to see what a receiver does. But there's no guarantee that receiver is ever going to be in that scenario. Like double covered, 50-50 jump ball in the end zone. Somebody might have had to do that, but others might not have had to do that. So they might be able to do it. We just never got to see it on tape. And so that's one of the hard things. So ball skills is one that's really hard to strongly evaluate, because unless you are seeing it constantly in the film, sometimes you just don't know. So I gave him a 3.5, 4.5 on the route running. Love his deceleration, ability to sink hips. Level 4 hands. I think he catches with his hands and not with his body pretty consistently. So I like Olave. We got Garrett Wilson also out of Ohio State. Similar, but a little different. Definitely a little thinner and everything, and a little faster. And his agility is just off the chart. You talk about hip movement, like the guy has the most fluid hips ever. Like, not ever, but he's very much like Tyreek Hill in the sense of his ability to move. Does not say he's as fast or as explosive, but his ability to move in the short area laterally and everything, great hip fluidity, really, really high level athlete, which leads to great yak ability. I mean, he's got good balance too. And I said elite agility. I mean, he could make people miss, and he has that backyard mentality, where he wants to make people miss. I forgot to talk about blocking. Jameson Williams, don't even care to block. That always turns me off. I don't like that. Garrett Wilson and Olave, average blockers to me. They get after it, but they're not really strong, so it's not a whole lot they can do other than get in the way. The difference with Wilson, again, pretty much the same size as Olave, but he got rerouted off the line hard. I mean, like knocked off course. And you got to understand, 1 second, half a second, that means a lot in football, game of inches and seconds. So even if he gets right back on course, if you're a guy that's going to get delayed by a second off the line, that could throw off a whole play. So that's something. Now, obviously, as I mentioned before, guys with speed, they're going to get cushion. And so he's not going to get press man a whole lot. But the times that he got jammed, he didn't look great. I mean, he tried to use his hands, but he just didn't have the strength. I mean, he got moved off the line. So there's that. But Other than that, uncovering off the line, I really like it. Stem, stutter, really fast, really sets it up. You don't really know where he's going. He's just got to get stronger. I like his separation. He did better against the zone. And again, to me, I don't know that he set his routes up the best as far as breaking. But he has the hips too. Again, that's just a technique thing. He's not stiff hips, so you just got to show him how to get in and out of breaks. I gave him level 4.5 speed, instant acceleration, 5 agility, 3.5 ball skills, 4.5 route running, 4.5 hands. He attacks the ball. He's not a big dude, but he attacks the ball and he catches with his hands. So we enjoyed that. All right, Trey Lomberg. Let's talk about it. I'm trying not to go crazy, but I've seen the group, the top guys. I haven't seen everybody, but I've seen the top guys. This, to me, has to be the best player on offense. I'm going to just say it now. 6'3", 225, and more than likely probably going to run in the low 4.4s. This dude is crazy. And I don't think he's explosive like off the gate, like elite or anything. But you watch him against Alabama, and where he had to outrun like 4 Alabama defenders, and he outran them to the end zone. That long speed. I mean, you taller guys, longer legs. They're striders. Some of them pick up speed. Takes a little bit to get there. They don't have instant, gas, as they like to say. But they still can have long speed. And I think he has long speed. But even in the short area, he's explosive enough. So look, I mean, you talk about Tyreek Hill. You talk about Debo Samuel. This is a guy that was used like them. I mean, started in the backfield, motions in the backfield, orbit motion, reverse motion, jet motion, in the slide, outside. I mean, they use him all over the place. And he's 6'3", 225. What people got to realize is that even if you aren't putting up a number, running that much motion across the field and then running a play all game takes incredible stamina. And for a guy that's almost 230, that type of stamina, and on top of that, just really tough fighting through injuries and still doing it. Like some games got a little hurt, a little tweaked, a little banged up, and he's still doing. They didn't say, okay, we're going to run these just plays. No, they still had him motioning, doing all that stuff. H-back coming off the edge of the block. The man was all over the field. So, to me, excellent yak ability. I mean, like I said, great finishing speed. I love his vision. He knows exactly where to go. He navigates the field. But he has power. He can break tackles. He could break ankles. He could do either or. As a blocker, I think he didn't give as much effort as he could, but he's really strong. I mean, he was throwing some guys. So when he wants to, he could be a weapon as a blocker. Physical against the press. I think he could better his technique in that, but overall, I mean, he's not scared of the jam. So I think overall he needs to get a little better uncovering off the line. He's strong enough, he's fast enough to get cushion or jam, but he's got to learn how to stutter off the line, get open. He's got to learn how to get his hands a little more quicker to get off press, but he'll be fine, but that's something he could add to his game. He had good separation. I think he works really well in finding space in zones. And against man, I mean, he's a physical dude. He's a 50-50 guy as well. So when you put the ball up, he can fight for the ball. So this is a guy I really think could get it done in all those scenarios. So I gave him a level 4 speed, 4 agility, 5 ball skills, which if you watch his tape, you know. Ain't no questions about his catch radius and his ability to track and attack the ball. Level 4 route running, again, not super quick. I think he gets into his breaks well with his hips. He understands space well, but again, I don't think he's the quickest athlete in the short space, but he's explosive. And I said level 5 hands. I mean, you watch the tape. The man is nuts. I hate to say Julio, not as Julio as in the type of career, but Julio in the sense of that combination of ability is, I think Julio might have been the last person I saw like that. I mean, yes, Megatron. Megatron's more vertical, more linear. Again, this guy's running all across the field, sideline to sideline. I really think that Julio is what I see. And to me, by far the best receiving prospect. All right, we're probably going to speed it up a little bit. These guys I didn't get to see as much. Jahan Dotson, again, similar to Olave and Garrett Wilson. The thing about him, I think he has stiff hips, which isn't good for a receiver. Again, when he breaks, his whole body breaks. And so that just makes it harder to get separation. I think his separation was average. Not to say that he's not quick or have really, good explosion or anything like that. But I don't think his hips are as fluid as you would want in a receiver. So I gave him above average yak. He could outrun some guys, but he didn't do a lot more than that. Average blocker, he'll get after it, but he's small. He can't really do a lot. Rerouted by the jam, so just getting stronger. I think overall improving his ability to uncover at the line and all that. So, yeah, I got him 4 speed, 3 agility, 3.5 ball skills, 3.5 route running, 3.5 hands. Drake London. A lot of people excited about him, really talking about him being top 15 and all that. And I like him. He's a 50-50 guy, a possession receiver. A lot of people are talking about Mike Williams. And I think Mike had a little bit more polish to his game. And Drake's going to get there. He's a converted basketball player. So he'll get there. But yak ability, to me, obviously 6'5", 200. You could break some tackles, but that's really it. He ain't doing a lot after the catch, at least in the college. Blocker, he just needs to improve his technique, but he could be great. He could be a great blocker. You're a big dude. Physical against the press. He's not going to let you bully him on the line at all. He's even won a couple times off the line using his feet rather than his hands. So I like that. But at the top of the route, he wins by being physical and attacking the ball. Not a whole lot of separation, but he's a guy that could go up and get it for you. So he's gonna be a guy that's gonna flourish against zone and those 50-50 shots. John Metchi, the third. Really like him. Again, very similar to Olave, Garrett Wilson, Dotson. He's in that vein. But I really like him. I love his yak ability. You talk about a good mix of Garrett Wilson and Olave, where you got a guy that really can break some tackles and break some ankles, but also a guy that really understands the space and has good speed. I really like Metchi. Not just like Jameson Williams, didn't block a lick. So, yeah, that stuff always rubs me the wrong way, but you take it how you want. I think he was good getting off the line, being able to stem and stutter, being able to use his hands against press. Looked pretty good to me. I said great separation. I loved him in separation. And this is a guy that really attacked the ball in man coverage. He's 6 feet, but he attacked the ball like a 50-50 guy. He's going to be physical at the top of the routes. He just has a real strong, sturdy body and isn't afraid to, again, attack the ball. And then in zone, I think, again, one of those guys that really know how to work against zone and know how to set up the routes to get open. So 4.5 speed, 4.5 agility, 3.5 ball skills, limited by size, 4.5 route running, 3.5 hands. He body catched a lot, and he dropped too many easy passes for me. Okay, then we got David Bell and George Pickens, who barely had any tape, which is weird because David Bell was first team AP All-American, but it is what it is. For me, or you know what? It might not have been Dotson that had straight stiff hips. It might have been David Bell. David Bell, that's the one thing I noted down. I thought he had stiff hips. I didn't really like David Bell, to be honest. Watching his game, I didn't think there was a whole lot of floor there, and I don't even know there's a whole lot of ceiling. So for me, he's kind of more of a mid-tier prospect. Again, when you talk about a guy that, even if you got speed, when you don't have the ability to move in and out of breaks laterally, it just limits kind of some of the stuff you can do. But this is a guy that got the ball quickly and became a running back. So there's always space out there for him. George Pickens, I think, has really high upside. He hasn't played a ton, and so there's a lot to improve on. But I think he's got good upsides. I mean, he's got great size. I think he could be somewhat of a vertical threat, but I don't know what he's going to run to say he's a pure vertical threat. I think he's more of a possession receiver, a guy that can go down the field sometimes, but a guy that's probably going to work underneath the coverage. And the few times that he did have big plays, it was kind of busted coverages, actually. So there is that. So those are the receivers that we looked at. Tight ends, not a huge group, as I mentioned, so we kind of pushed them together. So we looked at 3 tight ends, and all 3 of them weren't even in the top 50, but that's what we did. We got Trey McBride out of Colorado State, 3-year starter. To me, pretty balanced, blocked a good amount, like you would see from a traditional tight end. Also lined up out wide in the slot. I don't think he's that great of an athlete. I don't think he's going to be prolific as a receiving tight end. Not to say that he can't put up numbers, but I don't think he's Travis Kelsey where you just line him out there and he's going to eat. I think he's going to eat against zone and, be a safety valve, and he can get you that. But you never know, man. Some of these tight ends transform when they get in a different system. People love to forget, but George Kittle and Travis Kelsey were big time blockers in college. That's pretty much all they did. But anyway, I just don't see him with the same athleticism to do that. But I liked him as a blocker. I think he's really strong. He was really manhandling some boys down there. But, he didn't go against the same level of competition, but he was moving people. So I love that. I think he might be a plus as a blocker, and I think he could give you something in the play action game. Then we got Jalen Weidermeier. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce that. From Texas A&M. Now, this is a prototypical receiving tight end. 6'5", long arms, good catch radius. Definitely a much better athlete than you would think for a guy that's 255. And at first, I thought was a whatever blocker, but the more I watched, the more he really has some good tools. I don't think he's great. I said he's above average. I don't like his hand placement, but he stays with it. He works against blocks, and he gives effort. I think there's definitely something you could do there. Not something that you necessarily want to have him one-on-one with a pass rusher, but he could give you a little something. But as far as a receiver, that's what he is. That's a guy that's going to be part of your passing game. Really good yak ability. To me, he's built like a big receiver, even though he's 250. Big receiver, get him the ball, and I think he can make some plays. His route tree was kind of limited. I like his change of direction. Again, I think he just needs better technique. I gave him 3.5 as a route runner. 4 hands, 4 ball skills, 3.5 agility, and 4 speed. That might have been relative to tight ends, but if I'm saying overall, he's probably more like a 3.5 speed, but we'll see. And then lastly, we got Cade Odin from Washington. He ended up being my favorite, to be honest with you. I don't think he has as much pure strength as McBride, but he's really strong, and I think his technique is a lot better as a blocker. This is a guy, if I believe, I want to say he went up against Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. And a lot of time they had him blocking solo and pass rush, and he didn't do bad. I mean, he was riding guys out of the pocket. Not to say that that's what you want him to do in the league, but, I mean, that shows a lot of fundamental pass blocking tools. So I think you get a guy like this, you're going to get a big plus as a blocker. I think he's definitely a tad bit more athletic than McBride. And so while he didn't have the same, I would say, production or opportunities as a pass catcher, I think he still shows that he could be good at that. One thing, and again, when you got limited tape, you have to do this sometimes. One thing that I loved, it was a couple plays I saw where his balance was crazy. I mean, they like dove at his legs, and he took the shot and recovered, spinned around and kept running. And they did like twice in one play. And I'm like, man, he has some crazy balance. And so whenever you got good balance like that at that size, you could be a real problem after the catch. You get a guy like Travis Kelsey. That's one of the things. I mean, you got guys trying to run up and push you or take shots at your legs and all this. And some guys they're able to withstand that and keep going. And so he has some great balance. So Cade is kind of actually my favorite out of the three. But that's the group. That's the group of receivers, the pass catchers. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.